We're heading to Liberia, West Africa to work in the northern part of the country with an unreached people group called the Manya. And when I first became familiar with them, I don't even think I could count the number of believers on one hand. And since that time, there have been a number of people who have come to Christ.
We both see that God is already at work there and He's already doing miraculous things.
Villages that had never had any Christian presence before. I mean, even the imams, the leader in the mosque, and the town chief of several villages came to Christ along with dozens of other people. There's still hundreds of thousands of people in unreached people groups who still practice African traditional religion, or about 15% of the population is Muslim. The believers have faced persecution for their decision to follow Christ, and it's not like other Muslim areas where they'll be killed for their faith, but people will lose their homes, lose their means of income. They might be told they can no longer farm this piece of land. Really, our dream is to see a church planting movement started among the Manya and sharing the gospel in places where other believers, other missionaries have never gone before and probably will never go.
Driving 9 hours to the nearest grocery store to where all the other missionaries live, it's a long ways away.
We hope to go back and work with the believers who've come to Christ in the last few years and help strengthen them in the faith and help raise up church leaders who can lead these congregations.
The Manya people, even though they're Muslim, are very interested in talking about spiritual things. And of course, they're curious about us too. There aren't a whole lot of other white people in their village. And then once there's a friendship formed, it's easy to start talking about our faith.
When I was there before, I just saw the importance of using Bible stories. Stories are such a huge part of the African culture there. The Manya language has never been developed as a written language that people would know how to read and write. So we hope to work with the believers and help teach them the stories of the Bible that they can share with people in their community. One thing that I've heard a lot of former Muslims in Liberia say is that there is no forgiveness in Islam. And when they saw that Christians could forgive one another and could love one another and love people who weren't even related to them, it just provided a huge platform for sharing the gospel there and just finding practical ways to show the love of Christ. Another thing I really want to do in Liberia is to translate the Word of God into the Manya language. I would focus on audio resources at first, so they could have audio Bibles and radio programs in the Manya language. Trying to get across biblical concepts. For a lot of the vocabulary in the Manya language for religious terms is actually borrowed from Arabic, and so there's a lot of Quranic meaning behind a lot of these words. The biblical concept of sacrifice versus the concept of sacrifice in the Quran would be an example of maybe a translation difficulty. For the Manya people, they typically see Christianity as being something for other tribes, something for the white people, but when they can hear the gospel in their own language, they can see that Jesus is for the Manya people. Ba dunia molu diani alaye aka denke kelenana wolo ni momo ka denke na ma wote halaki wa abe abadan ni miasoro.